Welcome, everybody. Today is June 27th, 2022, 6:30 p.m., and we're having the meeting of the Golden DDA. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:30. And Robin, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Oxman?
Here.
Bortles?
Here.
Keeney?
Yep.
Rich? Here. Valdez?
Here.
And we have two absences, Brown and Schneider. But you have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the June 27th, 2022 agenda. Could I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Public comment?
There isn't any.
Okay. Thank you. The consent agenda only has one item, the approval of the minutes of the May 16th, 2022 business meeting. Everybody's read them and approves them.
I move to approve the minutes.
Great. Anybody second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 6, in business, the draft IGA with the city for administrative support and executive director services. Steve, take it
I
away.
think this would be all three of us, but Robin will start.
Okay.
Excuse me, you're on item 6. Did we have public comment?
And nobody.
There is
Nobody
nobody.
was-
These are all
I saw these
guests who are
folks.
speaking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
They're
want to
on
make
the
sure we
agenda
didn't
later.
exclude them, okay.
Yeah. That will be other public comment. Thank you, Madam Chair. So this item is the draft IGA. So by way of background, you know that there has been changes in city structure. There's in fact a big change going on right now with city manager interviews, and Steve is transitioning out of his longtime role with the city, and Rick Murby was selected last December to be the new Community and Economic Development Director. And Rick created a structure for the department, and perhaps in a moment you will describe that. And as part of that, I was promoted to Economic Development Manager, and the job description will also include providing support for DDA and GURA and continuing the economic development work. And just forgot what I was going to say, helping with the Public Art Commission until that goes something else. And so the idea of the structure, I'll let you take over in a second, is to provide the continuity and the support for the DDA and GURA in terms of DDA to continue to reach its goals, and that there's been a very efficient, both programmatically and financially, structure by having the city provide those services through the Economic Development Division for management and support of the DDA, and then the city provides financial management through the finance department. And so if you want to take over about your vision and how you came to...
Yeah, so we just took another look at the department, how it's structured, to make sure it was working most efficiently going forward. So on the planning side, so there's planning side of operations, city planning, and then there's the economic development side. And so the planning side consists of current planning and long-range planning. So we have a little current planning team and a little long-range planning team. So they're sort of sub-teams within planning, so they can run faster with those two directives. Current planning being development review and dealing with new initiatives in the planning world. On the economic development side, we wanted to restructure so that we could have a manager that oversees economic development, as well as the community marketing team, and that's Megan Pinson and her staff members that took Visit Golden. And so Robin, as she mentioned, has been promoted to that economic development manager role, and as she said, we want to make sure there's good continuity from Steve to the Robin's new role in supporting the DDA and GURA boards. And so he has agreed to stay on for a number of months to continue that transition. As you know, Robin has been learning all along for these past 5 years, working in economic development and with you all, or some semblance of you all in the past. So we are eager to continue that tradition and retool for the future and future needs of GDA. So.
And 2 weeks ago at the GURA meeting, we brought the same proposal, the three of us, to GURA, and they were unanimously in support of continuing that exact relationship that the city currently has to provide support to GURA.
So one other piece of context is that by state statute, actually, the DDA is a little bit different than GURA. GURA used to have its own administration, and one of the reasons that we went with the IGA version in 2014 was that their revenue was somewhere between drastically and dramatically and virtually totally cut with the end of the downtown project. There was no revenue to them early on, and DDA, frankly, didn't have any revenue. But they did have independent administration. They had a director, he had staff, they rented the building over here that is Rewind, is that what it is?
Yes.
That is the little store there. And it was determined by the GURA board, and the DDA board at the time was brand new and with having no money, didn't really think about going out and hiring everybody themselves. But what we've come to realize is that by state statute, the DDA's fiscal management is part of the city. The budget is part of the city's budget, and whereas if you wanted to, you either in the near term or the long term have some options, specifically regarding executive director, if you wanted to go that way. We don't think, and this is not a definitive you can't, but we don't know how you could do your basic administrative support and fiscal management separate from the city. And so as you think about these things, and if you want to chat about them tonight or separately or whatever, and you'll notice there isn't a overwhelming hurry in this, in that we've been out of agreement since December 31st of last year, and we're waiting for these transitions. But in one way, you're different than urban renewal because of that state statute, but it is a negotiation. It is an agreement. It is not something that the city is foisting on you a solution for how to run the DDA's business. But they very much would like to propose something, and we would like to chat with the board about what works best for you over the coming days, weeks, and months.
So I have a question, Steve. How long will you be in that seat, directing DDA?
Well, as director, it will be until you make a different solution. As proposed, I would be like in that seat as an advisor, starting the month after you. So how long around? The commitment has been the end of the year, and it could be longer, who knows. But the commitment has been about the end of the year to work with you, but not necessarily. At some point there needs to be a transition. You need an executive director, and we think you need one who works in the Community and Economic Development Department, or you need to make a different agreement with the city of whatever you want to do.
Then the other question I have, could we get visibility of the specific budget? Because we got like $80,000 that we contribute to that. I, for one, would like to see where that money goes, like specifically line item where it goes, who gets paid that, et cetera, because I think that will help frame some of the position and the qualifications and responsibilities and so forth.
We know exactly where it goes, and we can show you, but
Okay.
it is, what percentage are you at this year, 45-ish for that?
Yeah, 45.
It is $12,500 lump sum for the executive director and 45% of Robin's salary and benefits. Now, going forward, we are proposing a flat rate because you'll notice in the memo, there's a new person that, with Robin being the manager, she needs someone to do some of the administrative stuff that she's had to do. She's done both professional stuff and administrative stuff for the last 5 years, like minutes, agendas, budget tracker, paying bills, managing power washing contracts, things that don't need the manager level. So that's what it is. So of these, if we look at last year, it was 75, I think it says.
And then there's a percentage.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I lied. About 7,500 of it is the fiscal management that has been based on 1% of, 0.5% rather, of revenues. The county, in their generosity, keeps 1.5% of the increment that we otherwise deserve as
And the
their
millage.
cut off the top for the property tax increment. And they do that for all taxing entities, for the city, for the school district. That's just their cut. The city, in exchange for audit services, paying our bills, collecting our money, doing our finance accounting, which used to cost GUR about 15 or 20 grand a year, they take 0.5%. So it's 0.5% of the sales tax, property tax, and property tax increment, which are a total of, so that was $3,000 last year.
A good deal.
Yeah.
So it's 12.5 for me, 3-ish, say 3,500 for city financial, and the rest is 45% of Robin's salary and benefits last year.
But that would
So,
transition a little bit because
Yeah.
there'd be a new person coming in.
So if you went with, if you go with a version of this IGA, no matter what the number is, it seems to make sense to look at the last several years and come up with a flat rate. For whatever services you end up IGAing with the city, we'd rather not have to calculate percentages of time, like how much went to GURA, how much went to DDA, how much went to general fund stuff, such as EdCom, Visigold, and all those other things.
Well, I think that would be a follow-up question, to be honest with you. Like, how much is GURA's allocation and budget for that, and how much time is spent on a percentage basis of the salary to DDA? Because I look at this, Steve, I look at this board here, or us, this group, as being our top job, in my opinion, is the fiduciary responsibility for all the entities and people that contribute to the DDA fund, as voted on, 8 years ago or whatever it was. So I think our top job is fiduciary responsibility, number one. Number two, obviously, to implement the funds in an appropriate way for the good of Golden. So I think that now that we're having this discussion, I mean, it's always worked great with you, Steve, no doubt about it. But I think that we're having a discussion, we need to probably understand some of the questions I've been asking.
Right. Well, GURA, for example, is a lot less time. In one sense, they get screwed in the deal because their executive director fee is the same, $12,500. It used to be 10, and at the very first years it was 5-ish, I think. But they don't have holiday lights. They don't have grants. They don't have power washing. They don't have dealing with trash contractors. They frankly have a lot less going on. So it was like 25 or 30% of Robin's time last year.
And the balance for
And the balance
traditional
is-
economic development, working with businesses, looking for assistance, referring, helping with workforce issues, startups, entrepreneurship, all of that kind of thing. And then also managing the Economic Development Commission, which is what I meant to say before.
So, does anybody else have any questions off the bat? Or I was going to ask, are we going to go over each item here or not?
Well,
Or
it's
do we
kind of-
feel that we need to?
It's kind of up to you. Does the board want to talk about this? There's been a suggestion that because some of the staffing things might be more sensitive, do you want to have an executive session sometime? Either at the July meeting before the regular meeting, or have it in July and not schedule the IGA? It's really kind of up to the board. We brought it forward as soon as we could. As soon as we actually had a proposal to you, we brought it forward. The terms are, we think the terms are pretty self-explanatory, and it's how long do you want it to be for, how much do you want to pay, and then what services are included.
Okay, so I had kind of the same question that Dean did under the compensation, and I was comparing the compensation to the previous agreement. And I was kind of in on this anyway from the way back.
But there have been 2 amendments since the first one.
Yeah. So this lump sum includes, I just want to be clear, it includes the finance department, it includes your salary, part of your salary, and it includes an EdCom specialist that would be yet hired.
Yeah.
Okay, and that would all come out of that 80,000.
Yes, but the economic development special wouldn't only be DDA funded, would also be funded by GURA
Okay.
and the
The
city
general
of,
fund.
Okay.
and Rick's department. It's all, both of us would be funded by all three, as that's the proposal.
So,
And the actual funding is from the general fund. These agreements are a reimbursement
okay,
of the city based on either a negotiated lump sum or based on percentages or, not based on time clock and trying to decide, okay, now I'm working for DDA for an hour, then I'm going to work for GURA for half an hour.
Right.
That's the type of accounting that would not make any sense at all.
okay. So to be perfectly clear, the 80,000 is the total amount for the support of city staff people for the DDA.
Not counting lawyers.
Yeah,
If-
well, those are,
Right.
that's city
I know.
staff.
If-
Yes.
Outside professional
Right.
consultants or attorneys are separate.
And we
you
have,
a line on them.
and we have attorney fees written right
Yes,
into
yes,
our,
you have legal, you have
into our
professional,
budget
like
if
you
we
hire-
need it.
Yes.
Right, okay, got it. Okay, anybody else have any questions or
Well,
comments?
I'll have a comment. So the last two meetings, we had a meeting that was canceled. The last two meetings, I've been bringing this up before Robin and Rick were even appointed, or maybe you were, Rick, before anything changes to Steve. I've been bringing this up as a topic at our meetings, and it's kind of been just kind of, well, let's talk about it. But I think that, number one, I don't know how we could agree on an agreement this fast without having a chance to thoroughly discuss it as a board in private. So I've been bringing this up in anticipation of Steve maybe someday being in full retirement. I'd like to see him around for the next 10 years, but I don't think that's possible. So I'm of the opinion that we need to have a discussion about all the budget items, the $80,000, what we expect out of the executive director. The list goes on. And some of the questions I asked a while ago. I think we need to have an executive session, private meeting, for the sake of all of us being able to just talk freely and discuss all the items on the table. That's my proposal. Before we make any decisions on anything, because, Steve's been around from day one, even back, I was on the committee before DDA even existed, to create the committee and create the voting. And Steve's always been a part of that, so it's always just been a fluent, easy thing, because Steve's just always been in charge, but now, this is a change, and we need to, I think, again, going back to our fiduciary responsibility, I think we need to have a discussion about it as a board. I think that would be irresponsible not to do that. That's
Also,
my
I'm
proposal.
brand new, so I don't really know anything, so having a conversation in private with everybody here would kind of bring, 1/6 of the board up to date, which would help me quite a bit.
So are you making that in the form of a motion then?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to state it in the form, like, I move that we
I move that
plan
we
to
have
have-
an executive session with the board of, are we a board or commission, Alan? Of,
You're a board and
Of the
commission.
board and commission of the DDA, a private meeting to discuss the executive director and management structure.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, and then all in favor?
Aye.
So
Okay.
that was good enough. So your options are, you have many options. One is we could try to do a special meeting. So I've checked in how the city does executive sessions when, like, they're talking about the judge or the city manager or someone, and generally a staff person gets them started, and frankly, it's Casey Brown, who is on our board, who turns off the tape and gives it to the city clerk. It is not unprecedented, to use a double or triple negative. There's precedent for this type of meeting. Frankly, I think that I should get you started, and if you have specific questions that night, and then Casey, so we could do it some night that's not our July meeting. We could do it on our July meeting before that. And we are not pushing you guys. We apologize that we didn't have much to say before, but so those are the first two solutions. That it would be nice to get it going, and if everyone can make it, to do it either at the July meeting before it, and you may or may not even want to have the IGI on the agenda that night. Or do it before then, and then you can decide whether to put the IGA on the agenda or whether you have direction for negotiating. The context of this, and especially for maybe Noah and John, there's only 3 things that you can talk about in executive session. Contract negotiations, like if we're going to do a TIF deal or we make an offer on property, litigation, and God help us, and then personnel matters. And so this is either contract negotiations because it's an IGA, or it's a personnel matter. In a way, it's not as structured. It's not currently. If you don't like me, that's not really a personnel matter. That's a contract matter because we don't actually work for you. We by contract provide services. But it's totally legal for you to have this meeting, and we just need to figure out when you want to have it.
My question would be, when is this room, or the room over here, available?
It's mostly available.
Mostly?
available, and it could be daytime, it could be
'Cause
evening, it could be
It's
intensive.
generally
Or
in
we
the
could-
conference
or we do it
room.
over in the annex, in the large
Okay.
building.
They're a conference room, they're a conference room.
There are just rules for executive sessions that we would need to follow. And they need to be taped. We need to keep the tape for 90 days. And if anyone claims we did something inappropriate in it, they can file a suit in district court, and the judge listens to it. The other people never get to listen to it. The judge listens to it and decides if we do something wrong. And we've never actually had that happen, but that's what the rules are.
My suggestion would be that we have this as soon as it could be set up on a Monday evening, and have that meeting so that we could put the IGA on the meeting in July.
So the problem with that is next Monday is the 4th.
Yes.
The following Monday is the 11th, which is Gura. We could do it at like 5 or 5:30 on that day. But then the following Monday, the 18th, is our meeting.
Yes.
So the only Monday that I would think is available is the 11th, either during the day or at 5-ish, 5:30-ish.
Well, if there's not any hurry, then why don't we plan it for, like we did tonight, plan it for 5:30 right before our next meeting. Is that?
I have a
Does that
question,
work?
though. I wouldn't want to be time constrained if we have a longer discussion. A lot of times we have our executive session after the meeting, so we don't have that issue. I mean, hopefully it won't go that long, but that's the only reason I bring up after the meeting, because we wouldn't want to be, let's say we're in discussion, all of a sudden we're, oh, we got to get to our meeting.
That would be fine. That's up to the board. That would mean that the earliest you take action on the IGA, and chances are there would be tweaks that would come out of your meeting, would be August.
Is that work for everybody? We'd have it then after our meeting?
I think that's
In
fine,
July?
because I think it would be, we have a meeting, and then we got an hour to make a decision, and then we go on to IGA at the July meeting. I think it's rushing it. I don't think it gives us that time to have the full meeting without time constraints, and then have the chance to thoroughly make the proposal or whatever, for the August meeting. I don't think it's like
So
an urgent situation that we have to have it done by July or August.
We could keep the, you also have your annual meeting, which takes 7.5 minutes to appoint officers, so you don't want to miss it. Or
You get voluntold.
You'll end up being an officer.
You might be the chair.
So we could keep the regular business meeting and the annual meeting short, and then you go into that and talk as long as you want. Most likely, through Karen, you would send some questions to us in advance, and we would try to be as efficient as possible, but this is the first time you've had to deal with a change of this IGA. All we've ever done is change the price in the years on it with the 2 amendments.
Okay. Does that meet with everyone's approval?
I won't be here.
You will not be here.
July 18th, I will not be here.
Okay.
So if that makes a difference. As far
You
as-
can submit
Okay.
any
Well, and
As far as making a quorum
Yeah,
or any of that stuff.
and it's very clear that there wouldn't be action that night, so everyone else will bring you up to speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else going to be out that day?
All right. You have your direction.
Thank you.
Okay, community project updates. The Golden Visitor Center is here tonight.
Well, do you want to give a little background?
Well, please do.
Yeah, sit down.
Over the past, regularly, staff and some of you are approached by folks in the community wanting to tell us what they're up to on their projects, and DDA has a fairly special relationship with these 3 projects. And so they've mentioned to Robin and I over the months how they might be wanting to talk to the board about potential additional financial participation in the projects. And so it seemed like it'd be a good idea to bring them all 3 at once. They're basic updates. We don't believe that you're in a position to take action on any of the 3, and it may be related to your 23 budget. It's hard to say, but we're always happy to see progress on these Miners Alley and the Foothills Art Center, and hear about the plans from the Visitor Center that we haven't heard of since October-ish, I think it is, when we had our annual meeting. So we just thought it would be a good idea to hear from all 3 of them tonight, and you could ask questions and start taking it under advisement.
Okay. All right. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Mary Gomez with the Visitor Center. I've been with the Visitor Center for about 7 years.
And Dave?
Dave Shuey, I'm Vice President of the Visitor Center Board of Trustees. I'll let Mary lead off.
Okay, well, thanks for inviting us or having us tonight and accepting our letter. And also thanks for the continued support. As you know, our budget is tiny, so the amount that you give to us each year is used very wisely and greatly appreciated. So it's over the recent years, it's kind of become apparent that we are growing, and we need to make some changes to stay current and stay relevant. Last year, through a chain of events, we started to rent out the patio for different events, wedding receptions or rehearsal dinners, that kind of thing, and realized there's a great need for it. And we did very, very well with it. And again, with our budget so little, that income really made a big difference for us. So it really kind of got us thinking, what could we do to better serve our community? And not just visitors. About 3 years ago, I think we changed our name from the Visitor Center to the Visitor and Information Center, because we feel we're the locals. We want to serve the locals and not just be here for the visitors. So with last year renting the patio, we wanted to change things up, and we started talking about what if we closed the patio in and built a small event center. So we started working with that and different folks in the community, the Civic Foundation, and just talking about the possibilities. And we feel strongly that we have the need for programming. Right now, once a month we have the visiting nurses come in to do a foot clinic for our seniors in the community, and we've had them in our building for about 5 years. When they first started, it was about a half a day and 1 nurse. Now it's a full day and 2 and maybe 3 nurses. So again, we realized there's a need for a space such as this. And Dave, feel free to jump in anytime if I'm kind of rambling. But we also are tight on office space. The chamber continues to grow, so we want to be able to better utilize what space we have in our building to better serve the chamber and give them the opportunity to continue to grow and expand their programming. So go ahead, Dave.
This all kind of started probably a little better than a year ago, and it came out of the result of the proposal for the Astor House, the one that Foothills Art Center had made, one that the Civic Foundation had made. And so you all know that Foothills Art Center was selected as the one to take on that project, and we fully support their endeavors and everything, and look forward to working with them along with the Miners Alley Playhouse project, and but they're very focused on what they do, the cultural and arts. Our approach to this is the result of reading through the proposal that the Civic Foundation made, is that there is a great need in the community for other things. And so we wanted to create a facility that had diversity involved in it, and that is that this could serve a number of different things that was outlined in the research that the Civic Foundation did that could better serve our community. And a lot of those things that they had outlined in their proposal were things that we were already doing. So by bringing them into the fold on this, we'd be able to really enhance those type of activities. And so we started out having discussions with them. And as Mary said, one thing led to another. The enclosure of the patio area would serve a couple purposes. It would give us the ability to have year-round activities, where most of them now are just related to summertime activities. It would address some of the needs that we kind of have too, being able to provide additional space, as Mary said, for some of our tenants in the building. As Mary said too, the chamber is growing, and you know, they are on a good path. They really are rebuilding to what it was at one time, and probably will be even better as going forward. And according to our lease that we have with the city for the land, part of our obligation is provide space for the Chamber of Commerce to have a home. So we need to address that issue. The expansion of this will allow us to do more things for our community, and I said provide a home for the Chamber and other potential tenants too. So we started moving forward, and we entered into an agreement with Peter Ewers to do the architectural work on it, which he has done, and he's done all of it pro bono to this point, which is pretty darn significant amount of work that they've put into this. We have a preliminary design, and from that, the facility is going to require a lot of work. If it was built today, it probably would not be up to code. And so one of them is our mechanical system is not sufficient for airflow and those type of things. So that would be addressed in this. So, you know, it's a good opportunity for us to really showcase something, serve as a greater benefit to the community. And we kind of framed what we want to move forward as part of our focus. It's not strictly tourism. Tourism is a big part of it, but how can we serve our community? And part of it, the idea too, is we put together is what we call a community wellness program. And that wellness is really three different items. One is the physical wellness in our community, that we don't do a lot of programming, but we provide information on outdoor activities, healthy activities, and things like this that, you know, help us with building a healthy community. Another area that we focusing on too is the mental wellness of our community. And Mary mentioned the visiting nurses, and that program has been very, very successful. We are talking with the visiting nurses about additional programs that we could have there to better serve our community. And it includes our volunteers. We have 40 volunteers roughly that help manage that center or operate it. If we had to go out and pay for those people, it would be between $125,000 and $150,000 that we would have to come up to cover those expenses if we paid people. So we've got a great volunteer base. They look forward to coming there. If they can't, sometimes on their date, or we've got something going on, they're very protective of the time they spend there. And it's great for them for a social aspect. They are seniors, the majority of them. A lot of them live alone, and this is part of their socialization in the community by being able to work with other people and also with greeting and being able to meet people that come into the center. So, and the third kind of leg of it is the economic benefits that we bring to the community. And that is that we're not going out and doing programming, but people that come to the center, we can tell them where they can find things. You know, we basically get three questions when people walk in the door. And one of them is, what's there for me to do? And the second one is, where can I eat? And the third one is, can I use your bathroom? And so those are kind of the three things that we face every day. And to be able to tell people what they can do, where they can find things to do, and where they can eat and everything is, we think is a huge economic benefit for our community. Probably a lot of you heard that I've been in Golden over 50 years. And when I came here, there were maybe 4 restaurants in downtown Golden. Now there's about 35. The business structure of the downtown has really changed in this time, and so you know, we need to be able to provide with the information that's necessary to support those businesses and everything. It's a huge impact. This is where revenue comes for the city through the sales tax and everything. So the more we can help generate that, is better off we are. I know we put a pretty large number in the letter we sent you, but it's a starting point. And we are not asking you to make a decision or anything today. We want to be able to raise the money. And we hope we have enough money to raise the ability to raise enough funds so that we don't have to go out and borrow money or anything from anybody. We've had discussions with the Civic Foundation, and they'll be a pretty big partner in this going forward. We've contacted some major corporations which have expressed interest in helping us. We've also have a list of about between 8 and 10 foundations that we can apply for grants from. We've already got a couple out there, and so we really want to be able to try and do this without having to borrow money. We do not think that we will be ready to start any type of construction before the fall of 2023. It gives us ample time to raise the money. And as far as anything from the DDA, we would not need funds from the DDA until we're ready to start construction. So we're not asking you to write a check out immediately. We've set up a separate fund for the capital campaign and everything that will be totally separate from our operating budget. And we've set that up with the Untapped Credit Union, and we've already had one major donor who's put seed money into that to get us started and everything. And so we want to keep it separate so there's accountability, you know, to the people who help fund the project, and there's transparency in the whole thing, and all of it will be, you know, made available. You know, and one of the things too, we're a little different. Yes, we're a nonprofit organization, but a lot of the nonprofits receive SCFD money. We don't receive any of that type of funds, and so that's why we got a slim budget to work from, and we make it work. one of the other things too, in the facility, we're not in it to do programming, we're not in it to do food prep or anything like this. We're just there to provide a facility for the type of things that people are looking for. We will prepare a preferred vendor list, so if people want to have food catered in or any other type of services, then we can recommend places that they can go and obtain those type of things. But we're not in the restaurant business. I've been there once and won't go back again. I commend you guys for staying with it. But, a lot of things have changed. The building is about 23 years old, and we're starting to cure a few maintenance issues, and which are not cheap nowadays. But when we built that building and opened it in 1997, Golden was begging for tourism, and that was one of really the focuses of the chamber and the visitor center. That's not necessarily the case today, and so part of it is how can we better work to manage the tourists and manage the visitors to the community so we can provide them with a enjoyable experience and back up what we've been marketing through Visit Golden and other places. When we first opened, if we got 15 to 20,000 visitors a year, we thought it was good. Pre-pandemic, we were in the 50 to 60,000 visitors a year that came to the center. And of course, that really fell off, but we are starting to see that come back almost to near the levels that we were experiencing pre-pandemic. We've experienced a busy couple months here, so those are kind of where we're at, and like you say, we think it's really necessary. All we're asking for at this point from you is that we can get some kind of commitment for some financial support down the road that will help us do fundraising. We think it's very important that when we go out and talk to a business or a foundation that there's support from the city or the DDA for what we're trying to do, and that will enable us to have a better opportunity to raise funds.
Any questions?
Now, you mentioned Peter Ewers was doing some initial design work for you guys. Is it something you could share to help us kind of visualize what you had in mind?
Yeah, I don't have it with me, but certainly we can email
I
it.
do.
Do you?
Yeah, I got it's a pretty rough copy,
Yeah.
but
And you can send it. It doesn't have to be today.
no, I can just pass this around really quickly. This is not by any means a final design or anything. It's just a concept.
Yeah.
Karen has seen it and has given us some comments. We've shown it to our volunteers and to other people in the community, and that's just kind of what it would look like.
Anyone else have any questions?
Whenever you were ready and you want it, I could send it to them electronically, whenever you want.
Yeah, Mary can get some of that to you. But we've had some different sessions with him about some changes we would like to see and questions we've had. But the idea basically is we take the lower patio area and enclose it, but would have garage doors and things that we could open it up so people could enjoy the fresh air and the summer.
What side am I looking at here? Am I looking from the creek?
From the creek south side. the
So that's a
path.
patio.
Taking out a little shrubbery and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff? and-
Well, we won't take it out, that's what it shows, but
Yeah.
the garden or the flower bed along the wall there and everything, that will stay. That is a memorial to John Tracy, who worked for the transcript for years and everything, so we want that to stay. And then we would expand the top to have an upper open air deck on it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you have, because Yeah, besides closing in the porches, you really don't have much room to grow. I mean, you're kind of landlocked. And if you're already kind of busting at the seams now, it would be difficult. So upstairs, you have some room for
We would have an open-air deck.
something that you can put up there.
Yeah, and plus reworking like the lobby area and that downstairs brochures room where we're finding that brochures are slowly going away more and going towards a QR code. So we're thinking maybe making that downstairs brochure room office space but yeah, you're right, we don't really have any room to bust the walls
Are
out.
you going to leave the top part, is it going to be still the up?
Yeah, it's going to be a rooftop.
No, but like the
Oh,
office
the
space.
conference room? Yeah, all that. Mhm.
He's talking about the hole in the floor.
The hole in the
Oh,
middle.
no, well,
No.
we talked about filling that in, but I just don't think it's
No, we,
economic.
Oh, okay.
and structurally, when we've had a structural engineer and a mechanical engineer and electrical engineer, and they've all given us reports on it, to enclose that structurally could be some, create some issues to do that. And plus, our volunteers have made it pretty clear that they don't want to see that happen. That, they like the open air and the open concept there.
I got you.
So Dave, has anybody else made the comment that I made to you that the plan does not seem to fit well with the Victorian look of the building?
Yes, we've heard that.
Okay, and the other comment in speaking with some of the other volunteers is it's like, why not leave the main floor open patio? And if you're going to put something, put it up above instead of having it enclosing the patio.
Yeah,
The patio is just, I looked at that, and the barn doors are what people are doing, but it doesn't look Victorian, it doesn't fit the building.
I was looking-
Sorry.
No, we all feel the
And
same way.
the other thing is, right now, we don't have any money, and
We
we have.
realize that.
Yeah.
That's why we're saying,
Yeah.
And we aren't going to have 750,000 in a year. In fact, projection would be like possibly 200,000 maybe by next year
Well,
for,
the legacy funds, the end of 2024, you might have 175.
175. So I was
Right.
25,000 over.
But in your reserves, I mean, those are policy decisions you have to make.
Yeah.
On an annual and a budget basis.
but
And
yes, your first question about leaving it open downstairs and putting the enclosure up on the second floor, I was looking at that the other day, and that certainly could be a possibility. I even thought about that too. And I think it would tie in with our upstairs conference room.
Yes.
And everything. So I think that's certainly an option we can look at.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems we have right now, Mary runs into it about every day, is the homeless situation.
Oh, I run into it every Sunday morning there.
Yeah, and
Right outside my office.
Yes.
camping out on because it is an open air area.
Yes.
Camping out there, and, we had one of our board members down there the other night doing some work, and then three of them confronted her, and she had to leave the premises and go to the fire department to get some help, so. So that's an issue that we've got to.
Well, that's an issue all over the
Yes, it
state
is.
right now. But thank you very much, and obviously we'll
And
be,
like I say, what we're just looking for is a letter that we can, from the DDA, that we could have on file saying that you support the project and that, funding is something that's down the road to be negotiated, but you're willing to look at funding for it with us.
okay,
Amount to be determined.
okay.
So let me just real quick, so you got 50, 60,000 visitors, you guys come in contact with, that most of them probably go into Golden, hit the shops, hit the restaurants, hit whatever, hit the Clear Creek. So that is a tax generating thing for us. And then they're already here, but you're helping provide that with them. And you guys, I remember back when we talked about this at Golden Dave, you guys like track where they're from for marketing purposes and stuff like that. So get a good database, right?
Sure.
And then on top of that, you guys are also doing more community stuff, right?
Yeah, one of the things that we've heard over the past couple of years is that they would like to see us, focus on the community more. And, we hear from the senior citizens, we hear from the people that live here and have lived here for a while, that we've built the perception over the years has worked, that we're a tourist information place. Well, we want to change that focus so that we have a much broader focus to not only service the tourist side of it, but to also service our community better. And part of it too is, if you want to look at it from a long range, is how to make all this fit into the Heart of Golden project and be in the center and really have something that can, what we could refer to as kind of a facility that can be kind of the gold standard of the whole area. That's kind of our vision and everything. We serve a lot of nonprofits that meet there, and in our conference room, probably 30 to plus different nonprofits use our facility for meetings and stuff. Some of them have ability to pay, some don't. But when the Civic Foundation helped fund that, in the beginning, it was one of the things that they made very clear. We've got nonprofits in our community that we need to take care of, and if they will help fund the building, but if there's people that couldn't pay, that we would take care of them, and we've done that. We've lived up to our commitment on that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. No further questions? And no action required right at this time?
No, I think this is an information gathering.
Information, that's, okay.
From all your partners.
From all of you, okay. Great, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is just FYI, a volunteer at the Visitor Center who is 91. He's lived here 65 years. He works every Sunday from 10 o'clock until 1. And he's very, very nice. And this past Sunday, we had people from 3 different foreign countries that came in for help, because I work with him on Sunday.
But, that's just an example type of volunteers. He became a widower about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was lonely, and called us up and wanted to find a place where he could do something, and he loves it there, and we had a big birthday party for him a few weeks ago.
Everyone looks after him. It's
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I think, Lisa, you're up next.
Hi, everybody. How are you? If you don't know me, I'm Lisa DiCaro. I'm the executive director at Miners Alley Playhouse. I think you all know me. I know all of you. This is purely an update because I had some misinformation about the Legacy Fund and what was available and what you all were doing with it. But I did want to come and kind of let you know where we are and what's going on and what we're doing and what we do need help with, and so that you all can give me your ideas, if nothing else. But we've had a bunch of public events in the Meyer Hardware Building in the last couple of months, opportunities for people to come through and see. We've painted on the floor where the seats and where everything is going to be for the Phase 1 theater of the project. Have any of you been over there at all? I think you came over. I know you've seen it.
I haven't seen the paint on the floor. That I want to go back and
You
see.
missed the paint on the floor part? That was
Not since you've done
fun.
the upgrades. Some months ago, we were in there, you were just talking about what you were going to be doing.
Right, we kind of pointed out where things were going to be. So if you don't know, it's going to be built in 2 phases, hopefully only 2. But the first phase is an attempt for us to have what we're calling a starter theater. It'll be the first half, basically, of the ultimate theater that we're going to be building. It's to enable us to stop paying rent in the building we're in right now, in the Foss building, and so paying rent and a mortgage at the same time. So we just are trying to get phase one done as quickly as humanly possible so that we can get into the new space. So we'll have half of the theater, we'll have the lobby, we'll have half of the bar, we'll have the restrooms, we'll have the fire mitigation and all of the HVAC stuff that we need to do, so all of the environmental stuff we have to get done in the whole building, all of that's in phase one. And then in phase two, we will add to that the other half of the theater, so it will ultimately be 300 seats in the round. So you're no more than 6 rows from the stage to the top row. So hopefully, the idea is to maintain the intimacy that we've established in the current space, but take it over to the new space in a place where we can seat twice as many people, 3 times as many people as we've been seating since COVID started, because we took out a row. So we'll be able to seat a lot more people and do bigger projects, bigger plays, bigger musicals, things that require bigger sets and things we just didn't have room for on our little tiny postage stamp stage. But then in phase two, so in addition to building the rest of the space, the theater, we will also be building at least 2 community rooms that will be used for rehearsals, recitals, whatever the community. So, Dave, if you all need some more space, we will supplement what you've got. Seriously, that's part of our goal in the phase 2 of the building, is that we've got spaces that we can provide like you guys have been, because we have used your space and we really appreciate it, your conference room. And it is a big deal to have that kind of room to have a meeting in town. So yes, we want to share in that and help with that. And where we are right now, we've got a great capital campaign committee that is starting and getting off and running. It's going to take some time to get everything going. We're kind of doing this backwards because of the way that the building, how quickly it came on the market. So we're scrambling to try to get everything that we need in time to get phase 1 built as quickly as possible. We've got money coming from the state in the form of the Community Revitalization Grant, which we are approved for. But as soon as we were approved for it, the fund ran out of money. And through a lot of great advocacy by a whole lot of people, that grant program was partially refunded, and that bill was signed by the governor 2 weeks ago. And so we are waiting to find out exactly how much of that refunded grant we are going to get. We still don't know exactly what that's going to be yet, and it's making me lose sleep. But it will get us a big chunk of the way there to the phase 1 building. So I just wanted to kind of update you all. Any questions for me about what's happening? Yes, Ken.
Do you have any projection on, I know you were hoping to get out of
I know. Everybody,
rent?
Steve's going to laugh at me because, every time, when we first, I was like, we're going to open hair there in August.
I know, I was planning to buy tickets.
I know. Well, we are going to open hair in August.
Yes.
Just not in the new building. I know everyone's shocked. So, yeah, I'm the only one who's shocked by that. And then we were going to open the Christmas show. So now I think it's going to be January by the time the drawings for the permits are being submitted this week. And we were really delayed. We've been delayed by supply chain issues and inflation. I know, that's a shock to everyone, too. But so we are, one of the HVAC units that we need for the roof is not going to be available to, or not going to be on the roof until November or December.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we will be opening, we hope, first show of 2023.
Okay.
We'll be in there. And we need enough time to get in there, obviously, and build a set in there. So hopefully February or March.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So you have a amount here that you're requesting, but you said things have changed, but I want to just I want to just make it clear. So per the note here, we have 50 in the DDA Gura Legacy Fund, and about another, what was it, 175 coming as the COVID loans get repaid. Do we expect the
No, not
majority of this-
another, total.
Total,
Yeah.
125.
Oh, 125, okay, 170. So let's say per year, we're talking like 85,000 or so, right? So, I mean, because I would assume most of those loans will be paid. After 1 year, we'll have we'll have half of that, and then in 2 years. So and plus, we've got other discretionary money, so I just bring that up as a fact. I'm not, I'm not saying we would approve it or not. I'm just saying it was a fact. There's money there for things that are needed in our community.
And I appreciate that. And I did put on my letter we're very close, I believe, to being able to fund phase one. Which, I mean, we'll have to pay for before Christmas, whether we're in there and actually selling tickets or not, and we're still paying rent where we are. And we're so close. The things that we have not been able to actually find money for in our budget yet are things we're going to need, like lights. We've got a theater and we at this point don't have lights to go in it. We'll find a way, but yeah, that's what I was hoping that part of that legacy fund could help us do, is bridge that gap between where we need to be at the end of this year and where we are likely to actually be at the end of this year. So, yeah, whether it's from you all or you have any other ideas, I'll take whatever I can get. So let me know.
Things from your existing spot and moving them into the new spot, or is it not?
Oh, the lights?
Yeah.
No.
Anything, lights or anything?
Well, first of all, the lights in the old theater are not the energy efficient lights that we should be using for sustainability in the new building. But second, our lease with Mesa Meadows requires that we leave the space as a functioning theater. So while we can take some of the instruments we need, the things like the seats, the lighting grid, and a lot of those instruments are going to have to stay there.
Wow. So they want a functioning theater in the spot you're vacating.
Well, not necessarily. The
Yeah.
lease requires that, whether you want it or not
Right.
would be a different question.
They may say, please take these lights with you, but they have not said that at this point. So we're on a great lighting fundraising
So
tour.
just to tell you the point, I'm not speaking for them. If they said that you could take them, would they work in the new space, but they're not the energy efficiency? Like,
Not
would you want
really.
them?
Yeah, our current space, the ceilings are basically, just a little bit taller than John is.
Right, now you have higher ceilings now.
Yeah, so it's a somewhat different animal.
But if have you asked them, even though that's in your lease, if they would let you have?
We will, if we
And make
need
it work
to, at
for a
the end
while?
of the year, hobble things together, we'll find a way to do that. I've told our technical director, if you all know Jonathan, I've said, if I have to get out there with flashlights, we are opening.
It could be a whole new type of volunteering.
What?
Holding flashlights?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So we will find a way, but yeah, at some point in the next 6 to 8 months, we are going to need to purchase those lights somehow. So, and right now that's where the gap is.
Okay. Any other questions?
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Lisa.
all so much. Thank you for all the support you've given, not just to us, but to this whole corridor. I think it's going to be really exciting. And I think it's going to help to drive people back to downtown, locals back to downtown, which is really exciting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the Astor House. Excited to hear that update.
So Hassan, I only got your Dropbox
That's
link
fine.
after the meeting, so we can send it to them and follow up in the packet.
All right, yeah. Hi, DDA. So the latest on construction with Astor House is we had a groundbreaking on May 27th, a couple weeks ago. We have our construction documents set to be issued this Thursday, which we've been eagerly awaiting. When that set of drawings is complete, we'll be better, we'll be able to go out for pricing. Right now, we've had some preliminary estimates on what things will cost. And so with that in hand, and we have some design alternates built in for the wonderful value engineering phase, which will be inevitable. I think we're set to begin demolition right after the 4th of July. It could have been sooner, but as Lisa commented, delays with concrete, things like that. We didn't want to have a big gaping hole out there with a foundation for weeks. Before we're able to put the walls in. Fundraising right now, our target is $4.2 million. So far, we've raised $3,924,200. Of that total raised so far, that includes $3.85 million from 10 donors. 10 donors have given $3.85 million to this campaign. All of those gifts have been over $100,000 apiece. We have the remaining $74,000 that's been raised have been smaller gifts from our local community. Fundraising it'll continue until we raise the balance of what we need. Challenges that we've had, supply chain and material delays, are just things that are unavailable. There was something that we were using in our wall structure that had a specific R value. Then we talked with the supplier, and he says, we're not going to be carrying that anymore. And so we had to punt and do something else and increase our value somewhere else. So things like that, I imagine, are going to continue. If anyone out there is listening, I will tell you, don't build anything in 2022. Actually, maybe not 2023 either. Rising cost of not only materials but labor, and all of you know this. I'm preaching to the choir. Civil engineer discovered the height of Arapahoe Street is high in relation to the ground floor level of Astor House. So now we have to raise the floor up in the ground level 2 inches. So that'll be fun. More structural improvements. Every time our structural engineers are out there, we find more structural improvements that need to be made. The work that the city did pre-2016 was very effective in making sure that the building didn't fall down. But for our basic commercial occupancy, we keep finding that it needs to be increased. So that's kind of like the latest update on what's happening with Astor House right now. $3.9 million sure does sound like a lot that we've raised over that, and it is a lot. And we've had we've been building a really good, I would say, donor base over the past 6 years. The distribution of wealth we found within our community is either on this end or this end, and there's not really a lot in the middle. And so we've got these really big gifts, and then we've got these really small gifts, and it's kind of tough looking for that middle band. But we'll keep on hustling until we get there. Yeah, take questions.
So you're less than 300,000?
285, yep.
Good.
Thank you.
That's it?
Any other questions?
I have one question.
Oh, yes.
those fences have been up around the place for a month now.
Yeah.
And they're not starting for another 1 or 2 more weeks. Why couldn't they just, I'm not blaming you for this, I'm saying, why couldn't they just put all the fencing there, and then 7 days or 3 days or 2 days before the construction, just put the fences up? I would have even got there and donated my time to help out. I'm just curious why that is.
I don't know. It's a good question for our contractor. I know, well, maybe Steve does.
People have been asking that question. And so as of Friday, Brad from Happel indicated that yes, had we known what we know now, we wouldn't have put them up so early. And on Monday, which is today, and it didn't seem to happen, they were going to push back and recapture all of the spaces in the parking lot. On Arapahoe Street, you'd have to get equipment out to move the Jersey barrier. But then there was a piece of equipment out there. So it may still be the plan to move the fence back to the property line and capture that one row of spaces in the parking lot for the next several days until they need them.
Especially with July 4th coming up. I asked the same question at the chamber meeting the other morning, and with one of the city people and the planner or the permit guys, and he said, well, it's a permit, and they got this much time to do it, to do their thing. But I mean, you know, it will be extended if you need more time. So I just think those kinds of things should really be.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, the guy at the meeting is the one who pressed them is, why aren't you doing anything? And Brad Silk offered to move the fence. So hopefully tomorrow.
That's great. Thanks.
Good point. Anybody else? Steve?
I have one for all of them that when we do we have a finance committee in this board that doesn't ever meet?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah. So normally in this board, because we don't have as much audit stuff going on, the finance committee meets in late August and September. We talk about the budget, and it makes recommendations to the full board. We can pretty much predict our revenues for the next couple of years, and we could start right after the July meeting, right after the finance committee is updated, and start working on the budget and start having that conversation. When we get to the tracker, you'll know that if we don't make any more commitments this year, and we're asking to make one tiny one tonight about parts, spare parts, we would have $800,000 to $900,000 reserves at the end of this year. And so the question is always, what commitments does the board want to make? So my suggestion is we start working on a very preliminary version of the 23-24 budget right after the annual meeting.
Sounds good.
There's always money. It's just, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to save it for something bigger? Or are you going to use it for programs? Are you going to use it for grants? That's your job, is to figure out how to allocate the resources.
Well, I just wanted to add, I didn't prepare and ask for you guys. And for those that were here the last time, you gave us money on this project, $700,000 sometime in 2020 maybe is when I came. I think at that point we asked for $900-some thousand, and I think there were some people that thought maybe we didn't need that much, and we got 700. But remember, several of you said, hey, the door's open for you to come back. I didn't want to come back until we had actual pricing done. So that won't happen.
I don't remember that statement, just to be honest, because I was here, everyone else wasn't here.
Oh, I can find it for you and play it for you too. Yeah, no, it's there.
I'd like to see who said it.
Oh, sure. I'll send it to you.
And how much was it, 700 or 750?
No,
700.
The grant is 700.
Yeah.
But
The ask at the time was 960-ish or something.
Yeah.
Based on the budget at the time.
But once I have pricing, I'll have a more accurate number of what that could be. Yeah.
So before you all go, remember, community partnering applications will be due at the end of the summer. I'll send you an email.
Done?
Super.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
You could sleep over till tomorrow morning. Chamber, 7:30.
Almost forgot.
We could all sleep over. Shall I do the next one?
Well, no, commissioners' comments and updates first. Oh, no.
No,
it's
additional-
before them.
Oh, I
We have
jumped
two
ahead.
things.
Yeah, you should do-
Architectural.
These are short.
Yes, ma'am, you
So
should
your
do both of
beautiful
those.
fencing fruit, you finally got $100,000 reimbursement, yay. As expected, has some wear and tear. People have hit them. They've gotten blown over. So our parks, not our parks department, our streets department put together this incredible graphic that actually shows we need some spare parts so they can reconstruction broken pieces and so forth, again, as we expected. So if you look at this section with the little pictures, on the fourth page, you would see that they they would like 10 stabilizer posts, 26 stabilizer feet, 4 three-way posts, and we also need some wooden slats. So we've gotten the bid, which is like 10,000, and it's in their change for the steel part. I'm still waiting for the streets guys to tell me how many slats they need, because there's actually 3 different sizes. Wide, it's thinner, a little bit wider, and a little bit wider. So the ask for you tonight is, in order to keep the fencing going and then be able to have a kit of parts to make repairs when things happen, to authorize up to $14,000, but we would not spend all that very likely, on the array of replacement parts. Part of the exact pricing depends, like they just said, on the day you place the order. So that's why we could ask for a little bit of flexibility to work with the contractor to get those replacement parts.
Okay.
But some of these are actually parts we've never had, because I kept trying to get extra of the posts, because the number of posts you need, especially corner posts, depends on the shape of your structures. The more 90-degree angles you have, the more specialized posts you need, three-way posts. So,
Right, it was hard to predict when we first ordered how many shapes we were going to
so
have.
it's a combination of new parts, replacement parts, and parts that we should have had before if we had thought about all of our flexible needs.
It was a learning experience for everybody.
Okay, do we need a motion to go ahead?
Yes, I think.
Yeah,
Could I have a motion to authorize up to $14,000 to get the replacement parts and the parts that we need and the slats?
So moved.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Probably not the right phrase. but
That's
yes.
good. No second?
I have a question. How much did we pay for the whole thing? I'm just curious. I can't remember.
194,100 of it
194.
came from the state.
194. Okay, until I'm just thinking so that's like not 10% of the total we paid for everything.
About 7 or 8.
7 or 8%. Okay.
And are we using all of it that we purchased?
It's not all out right now because some of it is broken and it hasn't all been requested. But we did just add 2 more enclosures, and yours has to be adjusted, but we just added an enclosure like last week I was out for the Golden Diner, and then changed for Windy Saddle and the Brick Room. So it's mostly out, but there's some that can't be used because it's broken.
And do we have any asks that we can't fulfill right now?
No, we do not.
Okay.
But if we had like another ask, we're able to fulfill those last 2 asks. If we got any more, might have, it sort of depends on how much is asked for.
And we haven't hit the max of where it can be used yet.
No, because some businesses have not, who theoretically could ask downtown but haven't.
Okay.
I don't think at this point many more are going to. I mean, I'll have the indication from anyone that there's going to be an additional ask. We knew that the Golden Diner was out there. There was a change in ownership that we just discussed. So we knew, Lauren Simmons and I had met with him in the spring, we knew that he was going to ask for one, so we asked for one. Not when everybody else did, like when Dean did and John and Noah did. We knew it was coming later, and sure enough, it came in.
So these are replacement parts for what we already have
Yes.
to
Well,
just
and
maintain.
plus
what we have.
additional parts to be able to do
New-
corners.
Right.
The-
Like if you have a little space, there's some that have very long runs, like at front of NOSU and in front of you, they're long. Some are much smaller, like at the Golden Mercantile Co-op or Abeja. So they need, they don't have a long run and they have corners. Not everyone has 2 corners either, because if they go to the bump out, like if you notice at the Golden Diner today, because of the bump out, there's only 1 corner. It's a 190-degree angle and then a long run.
Well, I'll just make a comment on just some fact base and data. We have our point of sale system tracks where the seats are, and Our outdoor seating is phenomenally substantial in terms of people that want to sit outside, if you can sit outside or inside. So the customer base really prefers outside. So I think they're a good use of, we obviously spend a lot of money on them as a DDA. I think they've been worthwhile. And I don't know, Noah and John, if you guys experience the same thing, but they're worthwhile. I mean, and that's incremental tax base and everything else. So I think they probably will end up paying for themselves over time. But
And you invest, we also got 100,000
yeah,
for
so
them
just a
from the
comment on
city,
that.
and they're beautiful.
And they're well-used.
Yeah. But
Even the
occasionally
ones-
people hit them.
Even the ones that are not particularly in front of a food establishment, there are people sitting there enjoying the avenue, and, it just seems like it's a very friendly place, friendlier place. So could we have a second to Jonathan's?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Hi.
Okay, go
Thank
for
you.
it.
I'll place the order tomorrow because
Okay,
I'll see what
awesome.
this deal is. This next one is very, very short. Looking for a volunteer to be back in this room at 8 o'clock on Wednesday to join the reformulated special event review committee that the city manager's office communications is working on. City council has directed, made some updates to the special event process. And in the past, the DDA had a rep, then things sort of got quiet with COVID, so they're asking for either a temporary DDA rep, or until your annual meeting, you could choose a permanent unless somebody wanted. It would be a monthly meeting from Wednesday through October, fourth Wednesday, right? Fourth Wednesday of the month, 8 o'clock for an hour, to help all the folks who work on the whole new special event process, approving them, understanding what the community wants, what the applicant wants, and so forth. So they're looking for lots of good stakeholder input. So I'm planning on attending on Wednesday,
I
but
can't be on it if I sit on the board here
I was on
anymore.
it.
Huh?
Would they change it?
No, I talked to Diane last week, and she's like, can you help me find somebody to cover your spot? You can't be on DDA and the event.
no, that's not true. They're looking for a DDA member. There must be some type of misunderstanding. She specifically wants a DDA.
And you're already on it, Noah?
I was, but she told me to find somebody else, so I threw a couple
Well,
other people under the bus.
I was on it too, but I was hoping you were going to just take it for us.
I got it. I have a 2 or 3-year-old that has to go to school at 8 o'clock in the morning on Wednesdays. If it was on a Thursday, I could probably do it. But
They have chosen Wednesdays. Is anybody, like I said, I'll be stepping in for the DDA person but is there anyone who could go this Wednesday? If not, I will go and let you know. But eventually they will want a permanent person.
I could probably go this Wednesday. 8 o'clock
8
here?
o'clock here.
8 o'clock here,
Here.
not at the visitors.
No, here. It's a city meeting.
City meeting,
It's a
okay.
city. Thank you, Karen. And how about we go together and we'll find out more about what,
8 o'clock,
8 o'clock.
okay.
Thank you.
And it's to approve proposals for special events, stuff like that?
yeah, like
Yeah.
Uller submits a application to use Parfit Park, and then we review it and then give our recommendations to whether or not.
I don't think there was
And
any
there's some new
authority.
guidelines about new types of
Yeah.
events and what,
That, I think the hope is to have more authority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year was just kind of more just giving your opinions.
Recommendations, yeah.
right, no, this is really to beef it up.
Okay.
I can send you, there was a council memo about it, and I will find it from a few weeks ago, late April or May, and I'll send it to you so you just have some background on the revitalized special event review committee. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're back to whatever it's
Let me
called.
get this in here. New phone, having problems. Okay. All right.
And I assure you that well, let me tell you what I wrote down from our trip, so you won't have to say it necessarily. The environmental issue of sidewalk washing, why we can't find a simpler way to do it for businesses to do it, especially if it's water only, how we get to a solution that works, maintenance of public infrastructure such as the parking garages and the tree grates, maintenance of private developments that are not quite up to par, 12th and Jackson, 13th and Jackson, the Clear Creek office building, status of the 4th Street underpass, And then that was the extent of my notes from our walkabout.
And new Peach Garden sign. That was another group talking about the new Peach Garden sign, whether.
Well, that's a historic preservation issue.
Well, I know, but there's some conversations that have to be had, but I had the same.
Okay, well, that's,
And also I have Meyer read around the box.
well, that one is actually Lisa and Larry.
Right, so I'm going to talk to them.
For the weeds, but the idea.
'Cause they own it now.
The idea of getting rid of the rocks and stuff is, they would want our mutual advice on that as to how to do it. And
Oh, how we want
frankly,
those
they probably
rocks to
want
go.
help.
I wish we could get rid of the rocks.
Oh, I agree.
The big rocks. Number one, it's a hazard. A car overturned there one time.
Yeah?
Because it got up on it and boom. I have a really cool design idea that I would financially contribute to. We've talked about it for about 2 years now, Rob. It would be nice if we can get back on the agenda to talk about that.
Yeah, we have
Obviously with
to
Lisa,
talk
but
to
Excel.
Excel, because they're
it's an
the,
Excel thing, yeah.
Yeah. But so.
I've got that on
so
the list now.
All of those are on our tape. I don't know if they'll end up probably not in the minutes under commissioner comments, but they are all things that have resulted from our walkabout.
Okay. I
Sue
thought
must
it
have spent
was,
a lot of time picking up cigarette butts out of there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Oh, I know, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and they're not supposed to be.
like, whoever
smoking.
thought the rocks were a good idea? Oh my
Yeah.
They're all over the city
I know.
and under the city. When they were tearing up 11th Street or 12th Street, they couldn't drill underneath because there were so many rocks down there. It's like,
Well, that's Clear Creek.
Yeah.
yeah.
All those cobbles are where the creek has been over the eons.
The creek didn't have a defined bed for years, so.
Yeah, it was much wider.
And dinosaurs.
Okay. Staff report.
Well,
No, Commissioner
Are we
comment?
not done?
Well, I don't know if there's other things. I just
Commissioners' comments and.
didn't want you to all think you had to repeat what we talked about when we walked around.
Okay. How about start with Dean? Anything you want to add?
I think I've spoken enough tonight. Thanks.
Okay.
No other comments.
You did good.
I just do have one question on a lot of the concrete work. I noticed that, let's see, it's at 14th and Jackson, where they replaced the curb cut. And, you know, a lot of the curb cuts, it's, if this is the corner, it's one single one coming kind of off
The middle?
the middle. And this one, they made an entrance off two sides. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's more concrete work to do, and then, and of course, if somebody cuts the corner a little sharp, then they're bumping over the concrete. Is that the new way that we're doing the
They're called
ramps?
directional ramps, and it is, I wouldn't guarantee that that's the new way that Golden is doing it, but it is favored by traffic engineers for certain locations. Like, I don't know, I guess especially at big intersections. So yes, and if we don't like that, we should talk to the city engineer or MTAB or somebody.
Okay, I guess I will ask the city engineer why, to me, they're not helpful. They make it harder. If I was in a wheelchair or something, now I've got to aim for a specific.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be allegedly safer to be putting you in the direction of your crosswalk.
Is it more 90-degree angle?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
So,
you have
okay,
two
so I just want to make
entrances.
sure I understood what you're talking. So what I know about that is that some of the broader ones are actually harder, that folks who have like vision challenges are, let's say they use a cane or something like that, very 90-degree, and sometimes the broader ones doesn't provide the same input that they need to know which direction that they're going. So we have those very broad ones, so that's what I know about a family member who uses a cane, that the broad ones are more problematic for them.
Excuse me.
Okay, thank you. Anyway,
But Joe would be able to give you a good indication. I don't think it's our design for everywhere, but somewheres, like at 17th and Washington, they have them for that,
yeah,
those new ones
and
there.
it's just, it's more money to do it that way, I would think. And so anyway, I didn't know if that was what we're changing to. So that was my question. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Noah?
I have nothing.
No comment.
No comment.
Staff report. A couple things of note for the budget tracker. I was quite surprised, the very first line item 8, $71,000 is the first quarter of our tax increment. And our tax increment money is based on, we get 1/3 of the increase over 2014. So by 2019, it was 166,000. By 2020, it was negative 20,000 or so. By 21, it was back to 165. Conservatively, we budgeted 150. 4 times 70 is 280. And given that the first quarter is the weakest quarter of the year, we could have some strong sales tax revenues for this year and going into next year and '24, but it ends at the end of '24 unless we renegotiate with the city, either adjust the base up or just go in and arm wrestle and say we need it for longer. So that's good news. Property tax, we will have almost all of what we're going to get in line items 9 and 20 by next month. You know, you're supposed to pay half in February, half in June, or all of it in April. So, and that's pretty stable. It did go down in '21 from '20, and that has to do sometimes with timing, people who make late payments, people who appeal their assessment, et cetera. And then line 13, we got the 100 grand from the state. And the big expense so far has been line 52. The takedown of the holiday lights is about 25% of the total cost. 75% to put them up and 25% to take them down. And a lot of them, based on the wind, are in pretty bad shape when they take them down. They're more careful putting them up than taking them down.
Do we own them?
No.
We rent
So it's a rent?
We rent, and basically they don't, well, Robin would know better. I don't think they make ones that are worth buying that would last many years.
Yeah.
So,
But I was recently asked what it would cost to light the bridge permanently for a bunch of different reasons, or Mayor Applicant, and that without maintenance would be, what did I send you, 14,000, 15,000?
More. I thought it was more like 18,000. And this was people from Clear Creek Commons.
There was a question to the mayor from Clear Creek Commons about lighting, but I wasn't at the meeting, and I believe there was a question like, well, could the bridge be lit the whole time? And I don't know whether because they just want it, because they thought it looked pretty, or for safety. But for safety, that would not be the lighting you would use to increase safety around that building. That would not do that.
Maybe I could go and visit with the people over there.
The mayor's been busy with some other things this week.
Yeah, I could go and speak with them, but they were also asking about lighting along the creek behind, between Washington and Ford. Well, behind our buildings, we have sconce lights all the way across, so they come on at dusk and they go on in the morning, off in the morning. But if Clear Creek Commons feels that they need lighting, they could put some lighting on their porch that would shine onto
They do have those string lights.
They have
that's
string
not the
lights.
same type of.
Yeah, and they probably go off at a certain point too.
Right. So if it's a safety concern, there might be other ways to achieve that and not
so
permanent lighting.
I would guess it's an aesthetic reason. They think it looks nice. I'm just guessing.
I think so too.
But my question, why would it be so much money relative to the holiday lights? Isn't it just an extension keeping them up? I don't understand.
No, there's different set of, you mean.
Permanent lighting
Permanent
would
lights
be-
are, I couldn't tell you like the Luma would like the tech specs, they're very different lights. The temporary lights are not permanent lights, and so there'd be a different thing.
Okay.
So column E is the budget, column F is to date, and you know, we always spend less than we budget because we have savings in various line items. So our budget showed us, and this was before the 100 grand from the state and before our sales tax revenue, maybe almost twice what we thought it was going to be. Our budgeted reserves at the end of the year is 459, and then the third page is Brandon Narva's fault, that he wanted some simple thing about the bigger dollar amounts that if we don't make commitments out of them, what would it do to our reserves? So that's lines 104 to 114-ish or so. So tonight, you made a commitment of 14 grand out of 106 capital projects. So that would mean that our impact to our reserves would be an additional 414,000 for a total of 846-ish. So we try to budget conservatively, but also with enough flexibility if something comes up that you want to spend. So that's why I think that it would be a good idea to start looking at the the city does 2-year budgets, but they only actually appropriate 1 year. So we are asked to do 2-year budgets, but it's really only the first year matters. We can always change the second year. But it would be interesting to project out our revenues for the next 2 years. We'll know more about sales tax by, well, August collections will be, no, July collections will be June sales, which will be the first 6 months of the year. So we'll have a better idea. And, I mean, I started thinking about the '23 budget 2 years ago, so we might as well, as a group, start thinking about it and what priorities you might have. So questions on the tracker?
I have a quick one, maybe I'm just missing this. When we got in line 84 total grants, and we only list the Golden Visitor Center, Miners Alley Playhouse, Foothills Arts Center. So the things like somebody wants a new sign for their business, something like that is not included in this.
No, it will be. No one's asked me for reimbursement yet.
No. Oh, the year-to-date or the budget column?
Year-to-date.
Oh, yeah, we haven't paid out anybody
We
yet.
haven't paid them, but if you look, arts
We've
and
done some,
Yeah, but we haven't actually gotten requests for reimbursement yet. So
Oh,
you've
okay.
committed funds, but you haven't expended funds yet.
Okay.
I actually got the first one today from Calvary. Remember, you provided, I think, $3,300 for bikes for the bike crews. Tim walked it over to me today, so he signed agreement, so now I can do
Yeah, because we've
the
had
request.
several that we.
Right.
Yeah, but no one's asked for any money yet.
Okay,
So-
that was my question.
Another way of doing it is to have a column for things you've committed to, but we don't do that for the smaller ones. We just assume that we will spend under the budgeted amount
Okay.
for those ones.
Can I also just say one little thing about the trash? So your impact, so you're going to have a tiny little bit of extra money because the city, with the new contract of the 7-day-a-week service, the DDA is stepping out of that at the end of mid-July. In the middle of July, the contract with Bin There Dump That Main Street Cleanup that's doing the Sunday-only pickup, that contract has been terminated. They collect through the 4 weeks of the 30-day, the termination, and then there'll be a little bit extra funding left that you will not be spending.
That would be under our maintenance line item. But should you decide that we want to try to negotiate, the company that was selected for that is the company that's been maintaining bathrooms for the park department, at least in the corridor, 12th Street, Parfit Park, over by Lions Park. And so they're now doing our daily and twice daily on weekends if needed over the summer and the high tubing times, emptying trash on the corridor, which the reason is to be more efficient and more cost effective, but also let parks people mow grass and things like that and not just empty trash and clean toilets. So if we ever got to the point of wanting to pay someone to sweep up every morning, if we don't have a better solution, we would start by trying to negotiate with that company who's here every morning of the week now, 7 days a week.
They are doing a little sweeping on Washington. Part of the contract is the Washington trash cans get swept up, like a little circle around them.
But not up and down the street, where Karen's been seeing it. The second thing is, and it's ironic Casey's not here, part of this goes back to our conversations of months and months ago of how to get rid of the push buttons, how to have traffic signals that detect bikes, detect pedestrians, don't back up on weekends. I was flabbergasted when I got counts. The noon peak hour count on a Thursday in April for 12th and Washington for all 4 directions was 550 crossings and 1,250 on that Saturday. The rule of thumb oftentimes in traffic engineering is that your daily count is about 10 times your peak hour. So that's 5,500 pedestrians through a day, 12,000 pedestrians on a weekend. And so it's no wonder that right-turning vehicles and pedestrians are not mixing as well as we hope they would.
Heading south?
Say what?
Heading south?
Well, probably all of them, but mostly,
Everyone.
yeah,
It's-
south and north.
It's all-
Yeah, all
Taking
directions.
left on,
So the ask was, well, why don't we be looking at what options are out there? And generally, people want to look at options like close the street and make it a mall. One of the ideas is get rid of the center turn lane. One of the ideas is 4-way stops. And it's counterintuitive to JJ and I, but there are studies that show that that could work, and frankly, that's pretty easy to model. You bag the light and put some temporary stop signs out and see what happens. But the most recent conversation, it got delayed because of the Coors Tech traffic studies. And in fact, the Coors Tech traffic studies are the ones that led staff to think, boy, people think we're crazy and stupid all the time, but if we went out and removed all the signals and put four-way stops, some people in the community would continue to think we're out of our minds. We should recommend the signal version. And because there was a grant opportunity, and it's an incredible opportunity, there's some stimulus money, post-COVID stimulus money, where the local, federal money, where the local match is only 10%. And so I was preparing a grant to Denver Regional Council of Governments for 10 downtown signals, 4 on Washington, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th on Washington, 10th, 12th, 13th, 19th on Jackson, Ford rather, 19th in Jackson, 19th in Illinois. So for all 10 of them, it was $1 million to totally redo the cabinets with video detection and whatever FLIR detection is, I don't know, update all these cabinets, and really kind of a good deal compared to a new signal is $250,000 for any big intersections. Council though said, yes, go for the grant, but we think you should still do more analysis of these options for Washington Avenue, and there was some public comment that it would be more appropriate and more efficient, and it is more costly to have signals than to have things like roundabouts or stop signs. Signals cost more. So the memo in the packet was not for discussion tonight. It was for your reading enjoyment if you want to, but council's direction to the Public Works is keep evaluating this and bring it back to DDA and council probably this fall. We'll probably get the grant, but if we get the grant and we only want to do 7 of the 10 intersections, then we'll just do 7 of the 10 intersections. But so you will have a say. Casey is motivated to have this be something that we talk about. One of the issues has been that if you took the more, not the closing the road mall version, but if you took the more radical approaches there, you would get, especially if you moved parking, you would get a lot more room for sidewalks. You could leave parking. There's lots of options what you could do. My particular role was just to fill out the grant. It was one of a couple of grants to Denver Regional Council of Governments for this round of highly leveraged federal money. So more to come on that. And I am, by all means, not a traffic engineer. We all drive cars, but I'm not an engineer, and I don't know nothing about this memo. But we'll probably talk about it sometime. And then the rest of things, the most exciting news is the last bullet that the engineering department believes that we have sufficient funding into the city's paving program to repave the Prospectors Alley from 14th to 15th. Right after I wrote the memo, we heard from there's a property owner on the east side of the alley who I had not heard from in a year. We had been talking about making a deal on their retaining wall, that family, and
That's news.
there is no deal to be made. Mrs. Moncrief is ill and is not doing well, and her daughter suggests that they're not ready to do anything with their properties in the short term. But if the city will generously pave the alley so that it is not as nasty as it is now, and we want to do it in a way probably with a reverse crown so that it doesn't drain onto people's properties and drains down the middle. It will be a river when it's draining, but at least it wouldn't necessarily drain onto people's property. So that could happen this fall.
Between 14th and 15th, you said?
Right. So that one is more of a residential one that we've been dealing with. We haven't actually talked that much. Now, the block of Prospectors that I consider to be the most offensive is from 13th to 14th. And we've, for years we've been waiting to see if the Bank of the West property ever redevelops. One of the dilemmas that we will have on this board you get used to is do you wait for something else to happen that might affect either positively or negatively the infrastructure, or do you go ahead and do it when, if you waited long enough, you might have been able to get someone else to pay for it?
Right.
And it's a no-win. Whatever you do, you're going to be wrong. But that alley's pretty nasty. From 13th to 12th, I think, is in pretty good shape, and then north of 12th is not in good shape either and just got dug up. So that's the type of thing that the city is not as likely, unless we really push on them and they have extra revenue, to do much in alleys without us either cost sharing or coming up with the ideas or sometimes paying all of it. Whatever, our goal would always be city pay for all of it, or city, we share costs for things like that. We paid the cost for the entire concreting of Miners from 11th to 13th.
That's what I want to see.
12 years ago.
Yeah.
And that has got the reverse crown too.
Yeah.
It's got some fancy paving that may or may not have been worth the effort,
But that would have been GURA, not DDA, right?
I guess it was.
GURA.
Well, it wasn't that long ago.
Wasn't that long ago.
But it was maybe 10 years ago, 8
But
years
it
ago.
still wouldn't have been DDA.
No, it was during, Miners was open.
Yeah, it was maybe not 12 years, but it was, yeah, I mean.
But it wasn't
years.
DDA. 'Cause
It wasn't DDA.
We wouldn't have had the money, but it was GURA. So those would be my comments.
Okay. Do we have any public comment?
Madam Chair? No, ma'am.
Nobody's listening?
No, they're all like the meet and greet.
There, okay. Items that may affect another board or commission, other than the
MTAP,
revert.
usually. Council's going to talk about Heart of Golden again in the end of July. And one of the things that we will start talking about, I don't know if we'll talk about it that night, is what it would cost to start the phase 1 project of, and it would be like in 25 or 26 at the earliest, of City Hall, police building, what it would cost, how it could be financed, could it be funded without bonding or something like that. But the other thing that will come up is I mentioned it in the last couple of months, the lots on the north side of 10th Street, that we should not be surprised that if the city decides to sell some of those parking lots on the north side of 10th Street in coming years, there may be a request that they be added into the DDA, and perhaps some of the property tax increment from them be funneled back into infrastructure for that part of Heart of Golden. So I should just try to keep you up to date over the fall.
Okay. Well, that being said, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Sure. Motion to adjourn.
Okay, thanks, Noah. Anybody else? Second?
I'll second.
JJ? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And so
Thank you very
after adjournment, but related to your extra meeting, please do submit, if there's specific items of information, questions to Karen or to me, not to all of you, and we'll try to get you all that in advance.
Not to everybody, but
Did we net out it was going to be after?
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, and we'll attempt to have it be a brief agenda.
Okay.
Are we still on camera?
Yes.
And tape.
Yep, everything, I have to go close out the meeting now, but everything is still.
Okay.
Although actually you won't have sound much longer if you put the mic. Close out the meeting.
See you, John.
Hey, John.
Oh, what day is it today?
Monday.
27th.
I wonder who's here in the morning.
There's a breakfast in there.
But do you know what the setup is?
Oh, it's for the, meet the,
Meet the
right here,
candidate.
chamber 7:30
We need
business.
to take the chairs back. Is there at least?
Yeah, we don't know what the setup is, so we'll put the chairs back.
Oh, really? Put the chairs?
You want all? Okay.
Yes, please.
All right.
Well, we
Sure, the
can-
candidates will be sitting somewhere, right?
Yeah, somebody will be in charge of the setup. There's always somebody in charge. And Dean, you've learned in life, it's generally not us.
You've been sitting in those comfortable chairs this whole time?
Some boards have moved him down. I've always, well, Gura used to. I've always objected to moving the fancy chairs down. It's too much work. And besides, maybe